We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Vav Amud Aleph and Meseches Menachos. This is Menachos Daf 106a. On the previous Amud, the Gemara was discussing the line in the Mishnah which said that if a person says, I explained what kind of mincha I promised, what kind of mincha I was going to bring, but now I don't remember exactly which mincha it was, so the Mishnah said he should bring from all 5 types of mincha. And again, the 5 types of mincha are minchas soles, minchas machavas, minchas marcheshes, and then there are 2 minchas mafik. Can be all chalos or all rakik, and all loaves or all wafers, and that's the 5 types of karban mincha. And the Gemara asked that the Mishnah does not seem to be like Rabbi Shimon, because according to Rabbi Shimon, a minchas ma'afik can be all chalos, it can be all rakikin, or it can be any combination of chalos and rakikin. So the person really should have to bring much more in order to fulfill that neder. And on the previous summit, the Gemara said Rabbi Shimon holds that one can stipulate, and so therefore he can bring 10 chalos and 10 rakikin, and he could say if it was all chalos, then the chalos are for the neder, the rakikin are the nedava. If it was all rakikin, the rakikin are the neder, the chalos are the nedava, or any combination in that way. Again, those amount of chalos and rakikin will be for the neder, and then the rest will be nedava. And the Gemara now is in the middle of asking, but isn't there a problem here taking the kmitza? Because if, for example, let's say it was supposed to be 5 chalos and 5 rakikin, in order to take the kmitza, one would have to crumble that all together, and then would have to take the kmitza, so it's a kmitza from both, from the chalos ume rakikin and from the rakikin, and over here that's not happening. Over here he's taking a kometz from the chalos, he's taking a kometz from the rakikin separately, and making these various stipulations. The kometz mechalos harakikin, he's taking the kometz from the chalos on the rakikin, if that might be the case, ume rakikin achalos, or from the rakikin on the chalos, and so again, that should be problematic. How does the kmitza work in such a situation? And the Gemara continues and answers, Shamin and Leila Rabbi Shimon Do'amar, Rabbi Shimon holds, we know that Rabbi Shimon holds, im komatz v'ola biyado me'achar al shneim. Let's say a person is bringing half chalos and half rakikin, and he crumbles them together, he puts them in the vessel, and he takes the kometz, but he only gets one of them. In the fistful that he has, and the amount that he has in his hand is all chalos, or it's all rakikin. So yotze, so he's still yotze, and so therefore this is not an issue. Rashi explains, Shamin and Leila Rabbi Shimon, we have heard that Rabbi Shimon holds, beparakol menachos boos matzah. This is earlier in parakol menachos boos matzah. But the Gemara continues and asks, va'ika moser shemen. But don't we have a problem here of moser shemen, extra oil? The mechza chalos umechza rakikin amar, because if he did say he was going to bring half chalos and half rakikin, moser hashemen machziro lechalos, then the extra shemen, that extra oil, will be returned to the chalos. And iukulu rakikin amar, if he said all rakikin, moser hashemen nechol lekohanim, then the extra shemen is eaten by the kohanim. And Rashi explains, Moser Hashem in the extra oil, Amrinon beperak ve'elu menachos, we say in perak ve'elu menachos, mincha haba mechza chalos u'mechza rakikin. Let's say you have a mincha that is half chalos and half rakikin. So what do? Mevi log shemen, he brings 1 log of oil, v'chotzeu, and then he splits it, lechalos u'rakikin, he splits it for the chalos and the rakikin. V'chalos bolalon u'moshach harakikin al pnei kulan. By the chalos he has to bolalon, he has to mix the oil, and then by the rakikin he has to anoint it on the face of the entire thing, ushar hashemen, and then the rest of the oil, machziro lechalos, he returns that to the chalos. V'gabe kula rakikin. Now let's say it would be all rakikin. Tanya le'el, we learned in a brisa earlier, me'ahi moshchan kimin ki, that he does a meshich, again he anoints it like the shape of the letter ki, that's the chaf yavanis. Ushar hashemen nechol kohanim, and the rest of the shemen, the rest of the oil is eaten by the kohanim. But the Gemara continues and asks, v'ha'ika moser shemen, but isn't there a problem here of the remainder of the oil? De'i mechza chalos u'mechza rakikin amar, because if the neder was half chalos and half rakikin, moser hashemen machziro lechalos, the halach is the extra oil is returned to the chalos, as we'll see in Rashi in a moment. And ikulu rakikin amar, if the neder was all rakikin, moser hashemen nechol kohanim, then the extra shemen, the extra oil, is eaten by the kohanim. And Rashi explains, moser hashemen, the extra oil, amrinon beperak ve'elu menachos, we say in perak ve'elu menachos, mincha haba mechza chalos u'mechza rakikin. Let's say you have a mincha and it's coming half chalos and half rakikin, so maybe lug shemen v'chotzeu. The halacha is in that case, one brings 1 lug of oil and splits it, lechalos or rakikin for the chalos and the rakikin. V'chalos bolalan, as far as the chalos are concerned, there he mixes the oil. Umoshech rakikin al pnei kulan, in terms of the rakikin, he anoints the rakikin on its face. Ushar hashemen machziro lechalos, and then the remaining oil, he just returns it to the chalos. That's what happens in a case of mechza. V'gabe kula rakikin, but in a case where it's all wafers, Tanya le'el me'ahi, we learned earlier from before that, we learned, Moshe Moshchan Keminki, he anoints it like a key, which is a Chaf Yavanis, a letter, Ushar Hashemen, and then all the rest of the oil, Nechal Kohanim, is eaten by the Kohanim. And so therefore, in this situation with a stipulation, what exactly is happening with the Mosar Hashemen? And the Gemara continues and answers, Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, for this we're following Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda. The Tanya, as we learned in a Braisa, Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, Omer Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Shimon, Moshchan Keminki, in the case of Mechza Chalos and Mechza Rekikin as well, he anoints it Keminki like the Chaf Yavonis, Umosar Hashem and Nechal Kohanim, and the extra oil is eaten by the Kohanim. And Rashi explains, Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda gabe Mechza Chalos and Mechza Rekikin koi. He's going on the case of Mechza Chalos and Mechza Rekikin. Again, we said above that in the case of Mechza Chalos and Mechza Rekikin, so the Lug Shemen is split, and then the Chalos is Bolalon, and Moshe Harakikin al Pnei Kulan, and the rest is returned to the Chalos. But Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda says, Moser Hashem and Nechal Kohanim. That's not true. The extra oil is just eaten by the Kohanim in that case as well. Kidin Rekikin Haboim Bifnei Atzman, exactly the same as Rekikin that come on their own. Hilkach mimanav shach moser shel rekikin nechal kohanim. Therefore, there's no issue, because no matter which side of the stipulation we're on, the extra oil from the rekikin is eaten by the kohanim. And the Gemara continues, Amar le Rav Kahana le Rav Ashi. Rav Kahana said to Rav Ashi, Va'ikol esfuka b'minchas nesachim. We said in the Mishnah that again, if somebody says he specified which kind of mincha, but he doesn't remember which kind, so there are 5 possible kinds of mincha. Again, there's the minchas soles, the minchas machavas, minchas marcheshes, and 2 types of minchas ma'afeh. But now the Gemara is asking, there's another kind of mincha. There's minchas nesachim. Now, minchas nesachim generally accompanies an animal carbon, and it varies in terms of its size. There's no kmitza by a minchas nesachim. It's entirely burned on the mizbeach, and there's libations as well, and maybe that's what the person offered to donate. The Yomar Rava, because Rava said, Misnadev odam minchas nesachim b'chol yom. A person can donate a minchas nesachim any day. It can be donated independently, and therefore isn't that a 6th possibility? And the Gemara continues and says, no, kikam mistafka lei. The person is in doubt only about the following. Ba biglal yachid. He's in doubt about the kind of mincha that an individual would bring. But ba biglal tzibur, but something that is also brought by the community, like minchas nesachim, lo mistafkale, that's not part of his doubt. And kikam mistafkale ba biglal atzman. He has a doubt, something that comes on its own. But ba biglal zevach, but a kind of mincha that also accompanies an animal carbon, lo mistafkale, that's not something he's in doubt about. Kikam mistafkale tu'una lavona, and he has a doubt about the kind of mincha that requires frankincense. She'ina tu'una lavona, but if it doesn't require frankincense, lo mistafkale, that he is not in doubt about. And kikam mistafkale ba belug, he's in doubt about the kind of mincha that it's a lug of oil for every isaron. Ba bishlosha lugan, but when it comes to minchas nesachim, there are different sizes. It could be up to 3 lug. So lo mistafkale, that's not part of his doubt. And kikam mistafkale tu'una kmitza, he only has a doubt that it's the kind of mincha that requires kmitza, a fistful. She'ena tu'una kmitza lo kam mistafkale. If it doesn't require kmitza, that is not part of the doubt. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, Peirashti mincha shel esronim. If he says, I specified a mincha of esronim, but I don't know exactly what I specified. And the Gemara brings a brisa, Tanu Rabban, and the sages taught on a brisa. Peirashti mincha v'kavati b'kli echad. I specified a mincha, and it was to be in 1 vessel. Shel esronim, of a certain number of esronim. Ve'eni yodea ma peirashti. I don't know exactly what I specified. So yavi mincha shel shishim esronim. He should bring a mincha of 60 esronim. Divrei chachamim, that's the words of the chachamim. And essentially, in such a situation, whatever number of esronim it was that he promised will be for the neder, and the rest we'll see in a moment how the chachamim treat the rest. And Rebbe says, Yavi menachos shel esronim, he has to bring many menachos of different sizes of esronim, me'echad v'yachishim, from 1 until 60. In other words, if he promised 1 isaron, then that's the one isaron that's brought in that 1 vessel, that will be for the neder. If it was 2, then he'll bring 2 isaron in a 2nd vessel, 3 in a 3rd vessel, etc., all the way up to 60, accounting for all possibilities. If you add up all of those esronim, shein elef u'shmona meos u'shloshim, it's actually going to add up to 1,830 isaron. Now, peirashti v'eini odeh ma peirashti, ve'ezu mehen porashti, ve'eini odeh kame peirashti. What if he says, again, I specified, I don't know what I specified, I don't even know what kind of mincha I specified, but I know I specified 1, and I don't know how much. So then, yavi chamesh menachos, he has to bring all 5 kinds of menachos, shel shishim esronim, and again, it has to be each one one has to be 60 esronim. Shein shlosh meos, the total there will be 300. Divrei chachamim, these are the words of the chachamim. Rebbe says, Chamesh menachos shal shishim esronim me'echad v'yad shishim. He has to bring all 5 kinds of minchas of 60 esronim, and it has to be again from 1 through 60. So he has to bring 1 of a minchas hasolas, 2 of a minchas hasolas, 3 of a minchas hasolas, and that for every single kind of mincha. And if you add all of that together, shein tisha alofim umeya v'chamishim, that's a total of 9,150. And so the Gemara first asks, B'mai kamiflagi, what exactly are the Rabbanan and Rebbe arguing about? Why is it that Rebbe says you need to bring 60 different karban minchas, each of a different size, and the Chachamim say you could just bring 1 karban mincha with 60 saron and just simply say whatever the neder was, that's the amount that's going to count for that neder. And the Gemara continues and explains, Amar Rav Chisda says, B'mutter lahachnis chulin le'azara kamiflagi. They're arguing whether chulin can be brought into the azara. According to Rav Chisda's approach, essentially according to the Chachamim, whatever is for the neder will be for the neder. Let's say he promised 5 isaron, 5 of the 60 that are in that vessel will be for the neder, and then the other 55, that's just going to be chulin. Rebbe Savar Asr lahachnis chulin le'azara. Rebbe says that's not a good solution because it's forbidden to bring chulin into the azara. V'Rabbanan Savri mutter lahachnis chulin le'azara. The Rabbanan say it's permitted to bring chulin into the azara. That is the approach of Rav Chisda. Rava Amar Rava says, the Kuli Alma, everybody agrees. Azar lahachnes chulin la'azara, that one cannot bring chulin into the azara. V'hachar b'mutter la'arev chova b'nedava kamiflagi. Here the machlokas is, can you mix an obligation with a donation? In other words, according to this approach, the Rabbanan will say you're going to bring this 60 sarn in one vessel, whatever is for the neder will be for the neder, that's the chova, that's the obligation, and the rest will just be a donated mincha, a nedava. Rabbanan savri mutter la'arev chova b'nedava. Rabbanan say it's mutter, it's permitted to mix chova with nedava. The Rebbe savar asur la'arev chova benedava. Rebbe says it's forbidden to mix chova with nedava. Amar le Abai le Rava. Abai said to Rava, L'Rabbanan da'amri mutter la'arev chova benedava. According to the Rabbanan who say it's permitted to mix chova and nedava, so haba'inan shnei kamatzim, don't we need to have 2 kometzes should need to be taken over here? You need to take 1 for the chova and 1 for the nedava. And the Gemara says, yeah, the kametz v'hadar kametz, he takes the first kometz and he will take a second kometz. But the Gemara then asks, v'haka kametz me chova and nedava, but if he's taking the chometz, it's all from one vessel, so he's taking from obligation on the nedava one, and from the nedava one on the chova one. And the Gemara says to that, no, detali le bedas kohen, he'll simply rely on the intention of the kohen. Essentially, Damer, he'll say as follows, kol heicha dematya yoda de kohen hashta, which whatever the kohen takes now, that'll be chova, that'll be for the chova. Ulavasof, and whatever he takes at the end, nedava, that will be for the nedava. But the Gemara still continues and asks, va'akturi heichi makater, but how is he supposed to burn these kometzes? Liktor nedava bereisha, let's say he burns the kometz of nedava first. So then the chova heichi makterla, how does he then burn the kometz of obligation? Dilma kula chova, maybe it is the whole thing was an obligation, maybe he actually promised 60 isaron, there is no nedava, the chasru lushirayim, and now some of that remnant is missing. Essentially, he took a kometz that wasn't really a kometz, so some of that shirayim went missing. Some of that remainder went missing. V'yomar Mar, the master said, shirayim shechasru bein kamitza la'aktara, if some of the remnant goes missing between taking the kometz and burning it, ein makter kometz alein, you're not allowed to burn the kometz in such a case, so that won't work. And liktar chova bereisha, let's say he does the other way around, let's say he burns the obligation first, so then dinedava hechi makter la, how is he supposed to then burn the kometz of nedava? And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Vav Amid Beis.